Hello and welcome to today's webcast. It's Tuesday, 28th of October. Make sure I catch up with myself. No questions once again today. So what I thought I'd talk about today is intestinal worms. Now this is something I think a lot of owners forget about, and really we check each year when they come in for their annual health check, but otherwise animals are really left untreated for intestinal worms for much longer than they should. Now, worms are not just an animal problem, they're a human health issue, and that's probably something that people don't realise when it comes to worming their animals. It's not about just protecting the animal, it's also about protecting the people, the owners. So the basic worming protocols are pretty similar between cats and dogs, other than slightly different products being used. So what we normally recommend is worming every 2 weeks until they're 8 weeks of age. Then we go into monthly until 6 months of age, and then every 3 months after that. So here we recommend using the oral worm products over the spot-on products. I think the spot-on products have certainly got their place, and for cats that are impossible to tablet, they're certainly a good option. But we just feel that the oral products are a little bit more effective and just gives you that slightly higher sort of kill rate for the worms. So that's our recommended protocol. Now, for puppies, we recommend that regular worming because they don't have the immune system to really deal with worms, and so the worm burden can build up very quickly, and because they've also got smaller sort of functional reserves, effectively they become quite unwell with worms much quicker than an adult would. So we see it in young dogs. I mean, hookworm, for example, can make a young puppy quite anemic. A really heavy infestation can also basically almost block their gut up if they get so many worms. They drain a lot of energy from the puppy, so they look quite kind of scrawny and pot-bellied because they're losing protein, and they can look quite wormy. Whereas generally, like I say, once they're adults, their immune system is pretty good and can keep the worm burden under control. But that's when it becomes more of a human health issue. Now, the human health issue that comes from worms, probably the most dangerous one is going to be hookworm. And hookworm, the life cycle of hookworm is basically it develops in the dog's gut. It's the infectious eggs or larvae are passed in the feces. The worm basically comes out of the feces, sits on the grass, and then when another dog walks along, it basically kind of hooks it under the skin, penetrates through the skin, migrates through the lymphatics and the blood supply back to the dog's gut, and sets up its new life cycle there. So in a dog, it's very effective at doing that. Now, the problem can be if it gets into a person. Now, in an adult, once again, our immune system's pretty good. And so if we get a hookworm actually go into our skin, we can get just a little tract. It's called a cutaneous larval migraine, where basically the parasite kind of goes through the skin a little way. Our immune system gets in there, kills it off, gets rid of it, and we don't have much trouble other than maybe a little bit of an itch and maybe a little bit of a line in our skin. Now, with children, their immune system's not quite so good, so the worm can get in through the skin, get into the lymphatics in the bloodstream, and because the chemical markers that would use to navigate in a dog aren't there, it can get lost and it can end up in the brain or the eyes or anywhere else in the body. And it's actually one of the leading causes of blindness in kids worldwide is hookworm infection. Now, the reason why we look at doing worming every 3 months is basically when you actually worm a dog, you're only going to be killing the worms that are in the system at that time. So if the dog kind of was to be exposed to hookworm, say 5 days later, it's going to get a new infestation going, or a new that worm is going to get into the gut and do its job. But it generally takes around 100 days from when the dog is first infected with the worm to when it can produce an infectious stage. And that infectious stage is where the risk comes from people. So if we're worming every 3 months, we're worming roughly every 90 days. And so we're killing the worms before they produce infectious stages, and we stop the life cycle and we protect the owners as well. So that's why that's so important. The other worm that we see create issues is tapeworm, and that's especially relevant for farmers because tapeworm it's a complex sort of life cycle, but so it tends to have 2 different hosts. So the tapeworm sort of stage is in the dogs or the carnivores, and then we get the cyst sort of stage, which is in herbivores, so your sheep and your cattle. So tapeworm, very important for farmers to make sure their animals are wormed, because if the dog basically passes on their tapeworm or has tapeworm, it does it on the grass, the sheep go and pick up the infection stage, and that's where it can form cysts within the sheep's body, or in the major organs, and that basically means that the sheep's carcass is condemned. So it's probably more of an economic sort of thing for the farmers, but can be pretty expensive if you lose a few sheep or a few cattle at the abattoirs, because they're found to have cysts from these tapeworms. So in summary, basically, we recommend the oral products. The stuff we've got here, and particularly for dogs, it's pretty cheap. Certainly, we can do worm tablets a lot cheaper than the supermarkets can, because we don't go for the fancy packaging. We get them in bulk because we see so many animals. So, current pricing for a 10-kilo dog, it's just over $2 for a worm tablet. So very affordable compared to up to about $10 for 10 kilos at the supermarket. So really, a 50-kilo dog is only going to cost you just over $10 to worm it each time. So very economical. Cats, if you need a hand to worm your cat, we're very happy for you to come in. We can supply you with a worm tablet, and the nurses can pop that in for you. And a lot of people find that easier than trying to worm their cat themselves. So worming, recommend the oral products over the spot-ons, but like I say, for some animals, the spot-ons are very good. Worming every 2 weeks until they're 8 weeks of age, then monthly until they're 6 months of age, and then just every 3 months after that. And that's lifelong. We should be doing that. And like I say, it's not just for the health of the animal, it's for human health as well. That's it for today. So tomorrow we'll have a chat about heartworm. I think it'll be back over to Joe tomorrow. So he'll run you through heartworm, the importance of heartworm protection, and what heartworm and ways of preventing it. Thanks. Bye.